this is the timing for you, Vignesh, to walk us through your presentation. This is your view, your vision, and experience on digital FP&A. You're welcome.
Thanks a lot, Larissa. So really, it's great being here among colleagues, and also being surrounded by such a quality audience. I just want to say two things. First, I think it's one of the unique forums where we bring academics and practitioner view together. So it's really a missing thing that I personally felt for a long time. Either you had the academic view or you had the practitioner view. So here we can discuss together. So that's really thanks to you, Larissa, and the team. So that's great. Also, thanks to everyone joining from all over the world, especially when it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know who said that, but and then finally, last but not least, I'm also a fellow CMA, IMA member. So keep hello. Okay, so with that, I think we can start. Okay, so my thought process here was, as I was given the opportunity to talk about machine learning and artificial intelligence as a finance practitioner, I was thinking, let me talk about my experience and about the things that we did in our organizations, so that I can illustrate it with some examples. And that's just as a caveat, that's just my view. So I don't pretend here having any academic or unique proposition. It's just my own experience. And so let's start with machine learning, and I'll start with the definition as well, because as Larissa mentioned, we had a short discussion about definition. So for me, machine learning is a bit more than automation, in that sense that there is an element of a learning process, and at some point of time, the machine is becoming a bit more autonomous and is able to take a bit of decisions. Now, when we talk about decision making, we rather go towards the artificial intelligence. So maybe there's a bit of semantic here, but anyway, that's just to explain how my experience is and how I see that. So if you look at the machine learning, at what it is bringing from a practice standpoint, it's really helped us to move from one stand to another, in that sense that we had a situation when we were working with Excels and Access and using a lot of data. Basically, there was a certain possibility to understand what is going on at that time. Why did we drop the profit, or why we had a certain level of growth, or which product line is performing, which segment is working. So that's what I would call the descriptive part. So you would go there, you would analyze your data, you would talk with your colleagues and your peers, and you would come to a certain conclusion. From there on, we are more or less moving into, and this is becoming more and more the case, and Larissa mentioned it a bit earlier, that you move more into the predictive part, which is not only extrapolating correlation or linear regression or other type of formulas, but really trying to get a bit more complex in that, with adding additional parameters, trying to build in models, a little bit like what the financial markets are doing, so that you're able to come to a certain type of scenario planning, if you wish, where you're able to, and then accordingly coordinate the actions that finally drive into the results. Because what you need is being able to influence the operations in order to achieve a certain profit or cash target or any other operational target for that reason. And finally, the other point, which is which I would call exploratory, although the paper, and I'm quoting it here, it was a research published by Davenport and Harris in 2017, rather calls it autonomous analytics. I took the liberty of changing it a bit. And that would be what I would call exploratory. It means it's basically going into areas and directions that you maybe have not thought at the beginning, but which is, for example, identifying any supply chain opportunities. You have a product which is in back order. You have an opportunity to go in and take advantage of that supply chain situation. That would be an insight that you would get in order to act on that. Or what happens in a number of cases, we are running factories, we are in overcapacity or undercapacity, because the resources at that point of time are overutilized or underutilized. So how do we use those resource allocations using the information which is available, and then based on that taking actions. So basically that's one element where machine learning is helping identifying patterns of data and moving more into the predictive, and really at the edge in some cases going into exploratory modes. So that's one application. Larissa, if we would move maybe to the next one. So here, the second point that I wanted to mention, and again, I used the research paper, but then I put on the right side the applications in the field. If there are three types of applications basically for us in the finance area. One is on the top line forecasting, which is actually one of the most difficult forecasts that we have when we talk about the P&L, because you have some external elements that you are not really controlling. Whereas on the cost side, you have a better control of what you can do in order to act on them. So from a sales forecasting standpoint, let's take an example. In the pharma industry where I come from, you can assess the circulation of a virus. We talk about COVID these days, so it might be this one, it might be something else. And based on that, you would know how much diagnostic kits you would need to produce, and the market or your customers are able to absorb. So if you don't have that external insight or information, you basically are either missing an opportunity or running in overcapacity. And this is something which is already happening, those type of insights that we receive, and then we are then integrating it into our forecasting process and exercise. The second one is more in the area of a topic regarding pricing and profitability. And that is really related to the fact that you are basically grouping your data in clusters. So you have different type of clusters, and then based on that, you can determine your geography, your quality requirements, the type of value stream that we are proposing, and so forth. Then with those clusters, we're actually able to influence pricing. So pricing is not only a theoretical discussion, and we know it's an important element, because a price point which is too high means loss of market share. Something which is too low would actually mean a problem regarding a profitability. And the third one is what I would call the make or the buy decisions. So on this one, it's really a topic related to risk mitigation, if you want, and trying to recommend based on the maximization of profits. And it would basically recommend you to either produce a product or buy it from the market, or start a new site, and so forth. So if I try to link it to the left side, basically you have there those three categories, right? The unsupervised, the supervised learning, and the reinforced learning. So the sales forecasting, for example, is something which is more in the supervised learning type of thing, because you have a correlation, you have X and the Y, and you put some parameters and it's giving you a prediction. The second type of example is more a cluster type of thing to try to segment and orient. That's the unsupervised. And the reinforced, the last one, is the make or buy. So basically trying to educate through risk management, coming a bit from the financial markets. And as we move to the next one, we will see that basically we have also the possibility to illustrate this a bit better. So Larissa, if we can take this one. So I actually took one example, a very simple example from a finance standpoint of a tool which is often discussed, which is called the balance scorecard. And the balance scorecard is something that you basically use to assess the performance of a unit, but not only on the finance side, but also on with the other operational parameters. Now, one of the issues that we had with this type of tool is basically that it was fixed in time and it was outdated. So one of the projects that we conducted was to try to link it with external factors and parameters, have it updated on a regular basis, so that and also take some decisions, or try to start to give some first level of recommendations in terms of either procuring additional material, or in terms of either let's say adjusting some additional labor force requirements, because we had to produce more and so forth. So that is one example that you have here. And this was also the opportunity to have it connected with the 5-year plan or the strategic plan, and then have it translated in its operational views. So that's this slide. And then if we try to, and as we move ahead, one of the other applications that we also see in the area of AI with FP&A is the area of enterprise risk management. So when I talk about ERM here, I'm not really talking about the governance, the controls, the SOX, or the audit. I'm talking about the enterprise risk management in that sense that each department is given some activities or some targets to achieve in order to support a P&L impact, or a growth impact, or a strategic impact. So there are some specific actions which are taken. And what AI is helping as well is to basically to monitor those actions. If I take the financial part, to monitor a credit risk of a supplier or a customer, to monitor your own liquidity risk in terms of the number of bank guarantees that are in place and how many credit lines are actually consumed. Do you have a problem with a cash outflow or a cash inflow, which is going to lead you into a short-term financing requirements, or renegotiation of maturity of your debts? So that is also an element there where in the past we had a situation where the data was outdated, it was a lagging information, and you needed to, we were more or less fighting the previous war, so not able to have it on time. And what this is allowing, and I would call it AI, because to my mind is, as long as it has some element of intelligence component, where it can recommend some decision, or it can support the decision. I try to put it in AI. Whether this is really the case or not, I don't know. That's open for discussion. But that is one application which is very practical and which is already being in use. So, and if we then go to the next section, I think for me it's also a little bit about one of the things that I had in mind when preparing this presentation about the AI and machine learning is that these are two elements, but there are other technologies that are coming. So we have the Internet of Things, where you can gather data on every product and machine and material. We have the new technology of blockchain, even in accounting and in audit, which is helping to authentify elements, and which is, let's say, simplifying the checks and the controls and the SOX controls and so forth. So the question is really here, from a, let's say, from a FP&A standpoint overall, is how do we bring all of these different technologies together? So earlier we talked about machine learning and how it can help sales forecasting. We talked about pricing decision support. We talked about profitability supports. We talked about elements like risk management. So these are the practical needs that you have in a finance function in order to be able to manage your P&L and allocate the resources. And now we see a number of technologies which are coming. Some of them are helping us already in the forecasting area, in the FP&A area. Most of those technology, I think, are helping us in decision support, in decision help. But there is a little bit of uncoordinated and scattered approach where different things are available, and there's no clear, I would say, roadmap in how we are going to use all of this to serve the purpose that we are trying to achieve. So that's a food for thought or an open question, and maybe that's also a place where FP&A and the finance function can play a bigger role in terms of learning those technologies, mastering those technologies, and then using them as it's needed to address the problems and having them rather as a solution to specific issues and specific problems.